Okay, let's talk about game modes, the best third game mode in competitive Call of Duty history. If you don't know what that is, obviously we usually play Hardpoint S&D, then some game mode, whatever viable that year, and then Hardpoint S&D again. So, let's start it off. Sabotage. Let's get an honourable mention. Honourable mention because it actually is a pretty good game mode and a lot of fun, and if you speak to any pros that were about during Call of Duty 4 and did play this competitively, they certainly enjoyed it. But it has some flaws. Some serious flaws is that when the two good teams go against each other, it basically never ends. This is completely unsustainable for events and even online. It just takes too long, and that's why I got put by the wayside. So I know some of you have probably never seen Sabotage play competitively, but back in CoD 4 it was. It swiftly got removed from the rule set though for the obvious reason. It just doesn't make sense. People just take too long, no matter how good it is. So it kind of gets an honourable mention in this list. Let's take a look at our next one. Okay, Demolition. Now Demolition actually was a favourite of mine back on Black Ops 1. Kind of a great game mode really. 2 bomb sites, you attack and defend, you've got to blow up both, and there's various methods and great maps for it, and I really enjoyed it, but it had a flaw, and that flaw was basically who got the defending side and the way to get the tiebreakers broken down. It just didn't work. I think there was even a variant where there was like one bomb in the middle for Demolition. I don't think I ever played it competitively. But obviously this is an older game mode as well. Hasn't been in competitive for a long time. But yeah, Demolition is our second honourable mention, right? So it kind of goes in. They're both like joint sixth because they're actually alright game modes, but they're just not competitive, I suppose is the right way to put it. So that's kind of how it has to be. Let's move on to the next one. Number 5, Blitz. I hate this game mode. I can say that now because we're way past Ghosts, and it's a terrible game mode. It's just an awful game mode and I hate it. So much. I hate this game so much I can't even explain. Right. Blitz is a game mode where basically if you run into a portal in the enemy team's base, you get a point and teleport it back to your own. It's shockingly bad in terms of gameplay. It's professional hide and seek. It relies more on Call of Duty timing than any game mode I've ever seen. And what bothers me the most is the people that go, oh, but what about the great moments and the hype moments? And I went, who gives a shit? Right? Sorry, but I hate this game mode because I cast it for an entire year. And I know that while there have been some great moments and people use that to justify game modes, first of all, that's down to the caster's storylining and great gameplay from players. It's nothing to do with the game mode. We could have a great game mode of TDM, but make it interesting, but it'd still be terrible. 8 minutes out of the 10, it was just trading and boring. And if it was very one-sided, it was boring. And if it was very close, it didn't matter because they were trading for 8 minutes. So it was just terrible. It only ever got interesting in the last 2 minutes. And that's the only time it was any good. I honestly would have liked to see 1 minute aside. It is a horrible game mode, and I am very, very glad it is gone. And I'm sorry if you enjoyed the game mode. I have always hated it. I've always thought it's a terrible example of a game mode where, while there have been some players who were good at it, props to them. For me, it just seemed to rely a little bit too much on luck, on people not actually taking gunfights. It's Call of Duty. It's a shooter. We like competitive shooters. Blitz is not. It doesn't make any sense, right? Any sense at all. Terrible game mode. It comes dead last. I'd rather play the honourable mentions than it, even though they're massively flawed themselves. I just don't like Blitz. All right, let's go to number 4. Okay, number 4, Domination. Okay, some people are going to be mad at me for this one, but I don't like it for several reasons. It splits the focus of the gameplay all over the place. You've got 3 points, you have to go back and forth, and it can just be a nightmare. 5v5 it was bad, 4v4 it wasn't very good either. You know, pre-nading the spots and stuff to go through it. I just never really liked Domination. The worst part of it, as anybody, if you ever watched it will know, is the maths you have to do. It's not easy for the casual viewer to work out. It's not even easy for people who've done it for a long time to always work out. You know, if you have 2 and they have 1, it's 12 a minute. If you have 2 and a neutral, it's 24. If you have all 3, it's 36. And yes, there's been great modes on it. We've seen great turnarounds in like Ghosts, you know, when they lock it down and they pin people in, and the same excuse of, oh, can it be hype? The truth is, it doesn't work for what it was, and the reason that it kind of gets pushed to such a great game mode is it is probably one of the most popular public game modes. The public really like it. But, truth being told, if you ever go and play it in a public lobby, nobody's playing the objective, nobody cares. It's just a great way for there to be a battle line and to figure out roughly where the enemy team is spawning. That's all Blitz for. Nobody's sitting there, you know, dropping on B or splitting it to try and get the points back. I just don't like the game mode because I think it has some flaws and there are much better alternatives. Like, much better alternatives, right? It just doesn't... It just becomes so chaotic at times that realistically we should expect more from a game mode. There should be... The third game mode should be a swing map and it should be something that tries to keep up with Hardpoint S&D, and this game mode does not. Let's look at the next one. Capture the flag. Okay. I know. I put this over Dom. Somewhere Maven is very unhappy that I've put this in because he doesn't like CTF Ardennes Forest. But this can be a good game mode. It can. It very much depends on a few things. First of all, no 5v5. Just put that in the bin straight away. Map and spawn manipulation, right? And also where the flags are. If those things aren't working, this game mode doesn't work, unfortunately. The reason that CTF has got worse over time, back from like Black Ops 2, in Black Ops 2, if you hung back or if you turtled without taking mid-map control, you would be pushed to one side of the map and you would lose a flag and you would very likely be relayed because you could be held because you had to go through some choke points and people on chest-high cover, right? In iterations like, I think it's Black Ops 3, we saw it was actually more beneficial for players to sit back, right? Infamous Marky B going like 22-0 on a map. Because it was better, because it didn't really punish you for dying, and it didn't really force your team into a bad position. Turtling was actually an acceptable strategy, which made it terrible, right? Sitting it back made it terrible and pre-aiming. On, like I said, Black Ops 2, if you did that at certain points, yeah, you might get one kill, but you could also just end up pushing your team completely out, losing full control, right? And sometimes those flags were in good enough positions that a player could just grab that flag and get out very, very quickly. So the flag has to be in the right place, the map has to be right, and the spawns have to be a certain way working. None of that's a fault of the game mode. That is just how CTF should work, and it can be fantastic. Especially when you get relays going on and big teamwork and you can kind of break down how the map works. Some games it doesn't work, but it goes third because it has more potential in the basic mechanics of the game. And I remember the Black Ops 2 capture the flag, big favourite. That's why it goes there. Let's move on. Number 2. Okay, control. Now this was a difficult one for me because I already spoke about Domination and how I didn't like how it splits it up, and Demolition kind of you've got 2 points as well and it sort of splits it, and I know I'm being a hypocrite, but control has some benefits, right? When you split the angles on control, it means something because these players can't throw away their lives. You're able to break down and take the positioning and see, right, well, I can go here, I can go here. We're going to see how it plays 4v4. I could be wrong with this, but control goes second because I think it's a game mode that people can understand very, very well. Publics, maybe not so much, but I think it's a game mode where the stakes feel higher because it starts feeling like an S&D towards the end, and it gets tense, and that's basically every game. It's not just occasionally. Players are very good at trading and figuring out strategies, and if somebody does go for a flank towards A, then you're pulling away a player from your own team. Do you sacrifice it? Do you go to the other one? When do I use my specialist, as we saw in the last game with the Black Ops 4, right? It has some great potential for great games, more consistently than anything else. It leads to comebacks. It leads to, you know, incredible plays where players hold off the point or do something. It lends itself to these abilities more than most of the other game modes in this list. And it's not too difficult to figure out. Get into there, capture these 2 points before you lose all your lives. Very, very simple. It's great as a game mode. Could it be better? Of course. I don't know how we would make it better, but I think for me, control goes second because it's almost like a vanilla, like a medium. It's like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Doesn't have these massive drawbacks some of the other ones do. Right? You don't have to do a billion tons of math. You don't have to worry about all that stuff. It's just good, all right? It's a good game mode, and I like it, and I appreciate it for what it is, and I hope everybody else does too. It goes second, but it is second. It goes second to our last one. Let's have a look. Uplink, obviously, and I almost didn't put this first because I've been talking about the way it gets perceived by the public, and it has one of these big drawbacks where it can only really be played on jetpack Call of Duties, but let's face it, right? It's basketball with guns, and it's great, and it's a lot of fun, and it's got a high skill curve for competitive, right? You're going to have players who under pressure can consistently make ones or go for those incredible twos. There is a depth and complexity of strategy, of angles of attack, of how you're manipulating playing with the ball, or a drone, as it was like to call. Fun story. That actually got brought up to me more than once by people who work with the game, saying, stop calling it a ball, it's a drone. Don't know why. It's quite obviously a ball. I know we call it uplink because it goes to a satellite, but that's just semantics. It's just so now unnecessary for me, because uplink has everything you want to see, right? Pro players are going to play uplink better than public players because they have to consistently make their shots. They have to work out the strategy to move that drone forward or make daring plays. It lends itself to competitive Call of Duty in a way that no other game does, simply by being itself and having a single focus point. The ball is always the focus, right? If you don't have it, you're playing defense. If you do have it, you're playing offense, and you're trying to figure out a way through the enemy team and keeping that ball carrier safe. But he's also dangerous. Things like AW, where you could burst around, hit someone with the ball, and then burst off and get away. And these crazy plays we ended up seeing, interceptions and everything else, right? It's complex. It has a great skill curve. It's entertaining. It's obvious because it is something like real world. It's basketball essentially, although with the scores flipped because you get 1 for a long throw and 2 for what we call a dunk. It is the #1 game over Call of Duty. The biggest difficulty I had with Uplink, though, is obviously it can only be played on some Call of Duties. But the fact that if it worked in every Call of Duty, we would have it. There's no doubt in my mind that if there was a way to make it viable in boots on the ground, we would already have it. We haven't figured out how to do it exactly yet because, like I said, skill curve, when you go onto wall runs or you boost up high and you've got to make that one, it's important and it's not so great on boots. But it is the #1 game mode. Do you disagree with this list? Have I said anything really stupid? Let me know in the comments or on Twitter. Thank you all for watching this video. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.